That is Jennifer Vessels. She's from Silicon Valley, currently stuck in Oslo thanks to COVID. She's the founder of Executive Growth Alliance, which is a global ecosystem of open-minded, committed, brave leaders collaborating to creating a better future. She has also founded a couple of companies in Silicon Valley, and she's led growth and transformation for global brands that we all should recognize, like Tandberg, Google, and Adobe. Jennifer calls herself a future-ready innovator. So, Jennifer, I'm really curious to hear your perspectives on ecosystems from a business perspective.
Thank you very much. It is an honor to be here. And I will say I completely agree with everything Christian said, that ecosystems are organisms. And I use that term from the point of view of business organisms, humans that work together, leveraging platforms, which may be technology, maybe other elements such as locations and industries working together to create a better future. And in fact, Silicon Valley is an ecosystem. And when I say it's an ecosystem, I mean that it is made up of a lot of different organisms and a lot of different types of cells and people and companies that are committed to a common goal. And in my terms of an ecosystem that delivers business results and that really drives change in the current environment in which we're working, I define an ecosystem as a group. And it could be a group of companies, it could be a group of people, it could be a group of perspectives that have some commonality, and they work together in order to achieve their individual goals, but their collective goals. And that really is the way Silicon Valley has evolved. In Silicon Valley, we have lots of great education centers, such as Stanford, such as Berkeley, that help people build the platform of skills and knowledge on how to innovate. But we also have a lot of open, committed, brave people that go through those universities that move into Silicon Valley from all around the world, from other schools, other perspectives, that are the real innovators with that commitment to drive change, build their companies, supported by equally important, open, brave people that are in services arenas, by people that are the early adopters that want to use the technology, that want to embrace the future, supported by media getting the message out about them, as well as the investors and the infrastructure to help them grow. That builds those innovators, individuals, supported by a lot of other factors and perspectives, helps them grow into large tech companies. As they grow into large companies, those companies spin off new innovations. People have new ideas. Companies get purchased, and they go on to create the next generation. That was the core of Silicon Valley back between the 1960s, when the Shockley Labs Fairchild became the first semiconductor ecosystem that has now spawned what we have today with Google, with Facebook, with Uber, continuing the iterations and the growth of those ecosystems organically. That's not reserved specifically for Silicon Valley. That kind of ecosystem thinking, how can we bring people together to collaborate, share, work for a common goal, that can be done anywhere. We see that in America in places like Austin, Texas. We see that in Berlin. I've seen that grow, and I'm very pleased to say I've seen it really develop here in Oslo, where innovators coming out of oil and gas have applied their capabilities and their contacts and relationships to other areas of environment, fish farming, etc. In my legacy of building international business for Tandberg, very pleased to see that same approach as we have Video Valley now in Oslo with the Tandberg Hub. cubs that are going out and building the next innovations. So ecosystems apply very much to business with common perspectives. Within the Executive Growth Alliance, we actually bring people together in ecosystems, smaller ecosystems, built around common goals within either an industry or a common systemic challenge. For example, in EGA, there are groups working around reinventing transportation, reshaping mobility. And when we think about mobility, in the big scheme of things, mobility is all about an individual, a person, needing to get from point A to point B. And in an EGA group, we can bring in, as we have done, members such as Norwegian Air, Avinor, Train Communication Systems in Central Europe, Enterprise Rent-A-Car, parking organizations, and public sector folks that are looking at what are the real long-term perspectives of what is needed for true data sharing, true collaboration, and true long-term commitment to working together. Through this ecosystem approach of solving systemic change, we have seen some very tangible results of 2, 3 of these very different, very large organizations working together collaboratively, under the radar and unofficially, to try things out, designing solutions and actually launching them in a pilot in less than 9 months. Unheard of in the official way of doing things, but through an ecosystem of people working together and connecting, it is possible. We have seen also a number of long-term collaborations around things such as how can we really drive change in the environment, reducing plastics in the world's oceans. And very importantly today, rethinking healthcare, all the way from the genetic research that's being done to pharmaceuticals, to patient care, structure of hospitals, insurance and payment systems, all of which organizations and business leaders have recognized a need to change. By coming together, sharing openly, they are starting to make those changes as they co-create future success. This doesn't happen randomly. It can in a coffee shop as you talk to people, but for the real change and real business results and real value, you need a structure. And that's what we do in the Executive Growth Alliance. We use a decades-long proven methodology called Power of Peers, bringing communities together with a shared purpose. And keys to success in these communities working together is identifying the right peers, the right players around the table. What are all of those elements that need to really come to the table to rethink transportation or something like healthcare? But keeping it small, because in a peer collaboration ecosystem, you need 6 to 12, maybe 14 at most people that can really build trust, share openly with each other, and connect to drive real action and change. So in EGA, we curate these groups based on shared challenges, based on commitment, common commitment from each of the members. And by that, I mean person as well as company, to be that open, committed, brave person to really drive change and share openly. Because we need to bring people with diverse perspectives to challenge, to share experience, and most importantly, to be ready and willing to take action. People that work openly and committed in ecosystems gain future readiness, meaning they have different ideas and perspectives. They're not hiding under a rock, waiting to see what happens next. They have confidence because others in their environment with similar challenges but different perspectives have their back. And ultimately, by working together and having a commitment and accountability to take action, they actually move their business forward. That's how two large companies can work together in 9 months and co-create an app to drive change in an area like transportation. We do it in EGA on a platform called Circles, which is a purpose-built platform specifically for peer collaboration and learning. This allows us to bring global views to these big questions so that we can have people in Amsterdam, someone in South Africa, someone in Mexico, representatives in Silicon Valley, in Asia, all working together on these problems. Because the more sharing that we can do of our strengths, our capabilities, and our perspectives globally on systemic issues, the greater our opportunity to really drive change. In an executive growth circle, we have one member that brings a SOC or a case into each circle, and we collaborate to help them solve that case by curating the members so that each have similar challenges, all walk out with committed actions to move forward and ultimately move the full group forward. So ecosystems are important, they're critical, and I believe in our evolution into the new world of imagination and AI and what the future brings. I believe by working together collaboratively in small groups, open commitment, with structure, we can all be part of building that future that we're looking at, which will be very different than our past. So I would welcome anyone that is interested in more information to reach out to me, and happy to share more examples, and also happy to support you as you build your own formal or informal ecosystems, because ultimately by working together, we can all build a better society as well as greater benefits for our organizations and ourselves.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. It's always interesting to listen to your perspectives on peer-to-peer collaboration. And then, of course, I have a question for you as well. So, based on the experience you have from Executive Growth Alliance and the peer-to-peer sharing, what would be your one or two main advice for any company that would like to strengthen their internal work with ecosystems, meaning working across the silos to a large extent? What would your two advice be?
The first thing is to develop. You have to know what you're trying to do in order to be successful. So be clear of what you want that ecosystem to achieve, and be very selective of who should be in the ecosystem and who is invited to work closely on that goal, and have a structure. Have a structure of how often that ecosystem touches base, what is the level of accountability of people to take action and to actually work in the ecosystem, and manage it carefully. So start with the right people, common goal, and a structure.
Questions. So here. So when you create an ecosystem, how do you make every participant that is part of this benefit from the ecosystem? and to perceive an added value of being part of it?
It starts with having a shared goal. So by coming in with a purpose, that you want to solve problems, you want to create new opportunities. And in the methodology of our executive growth circles, we structure where every circle starts with, what have you done and what have you learned? Now let's work together on the next challenge, and everyone leaves with committed action that relates to their purpose, their challenge, and their opportunity.
There's one more question here I'd like to ask you, actually. So how do ecosystems like Executive Growth Alliance or any other ecosystem between companies handle companies that want to collaborate, but at the same time might actually be competitors in some instances?
It's a great question. In Silicon Valley, we have something we call cooperation, because ultimately, if you bubble it up to wallet share and budget, we're all competing. But when it really comes down to what are we actually doing and how can we build a better, bigger pie, we all need to work together. So, for example, in the transportation group in EGA, somewhere a year ago, and now we have an airport, we have an airline, we have a bus company, we have a train company. One could say, there's some competition there. Does the traveler take the train or the bus or the plane? And about a year ago, one of the members had just an amazing aha moment when he said, hang on a second. For the last 6 months, I realized for myself, I've been holding back a little bit in how much I share, because I've been thinking the old way, that I'm competing with you guys. He says, I've just had the realization. Now, this was before the pandemic. I've just had the realization. We are not competing with each other. We're competing with Zoom. Because if we don't make that traveler's journey seamless and we don't make it easy for that person to go from Drammen to Munich for his meeting, he's not going to go. So we can stay in our little silos and believe that the bus and the airline and the train and the car are competing, or we can break those down and build a better journey so that they actually want to use one of us. It may be me today, it may be you tomorrow, but they're using one of us. Otherwise, we're going to be disrupted.
Now, that's an interesting perspective. We're not competing against each other. We're competing against Zoom. I learned a new word today, corporatician. Note made. Jennifer, thank you very much for now. But we'll get you back online in a few minutes. So see you around very soon. So, Sander, now you're next up.